I guess Lindsay here with Storybook Family Farm. So this past week, I've been working on getting a lot of different things squared away before wintertime, getting things done that needs to be done, like planting different fruit trees that we've been essentially waiting and waiting and waiting to figure out where we should put them because we've been waiting to figure out from the county where they're going to put our septic so then we can move forward with future plants. Well, we still don't know anything, and it's gotten cold. We've had a couple frosts by now, and it kind of got down to crunch time of where to put stuff. So I started adding things actually in the front yard, basically over by where the pond is at. And things started really shifting as I started doing that. This past week, I've essentially been slowing down and working on creating things based off of like creating different systems, homesteading systems and such, based off of what I feel would be beautiful, and what I feel would be functional, not based off of where things ought to go. Where, commercial, not commercial, but, traditional agriculture stuff would tell you that you should have your orchard far away and you should do this and you should do that, and yada, yada, yada. I started going back to planting things more based off of my intuitive promptings and where things would be kind of nice and be fun or be exciting or just be different. And in saying that, over the course of the past week or so, I've actually felt like I've been starting to fall in love with this property, with looking at things of just wild eye looking at it and just dreaming it up and stuff, of slowing down and going, this issue isn't an issue if we change this or if we tweak that and such with the land. Like how I said in the previous video, how we're actually going to be working on running fencing up in the woods here to pasture the goats up here instead of on the very valuable, prime, minimal amount of flat, sunny land that we have. It makes logical sense to bring them up here. And with that decision being made, we're looking at other things and we're going, oh, gee, it's almost like in the past week or so, the blinders have been taken off of my eyes because I've slowed down instead of just running ahead at full speed, trying to get as much done as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible. So then that way, one day I can start enjoying life here because I've stepped back and I've started really putting the brakes on things. I've started seeing things from a different perspective. I started seeing them from kind of how I looked at this place when we first bought it. And when we first started trying to set things up here, of how much space there was, how much potential there was, and how much availability there is for us to do different things and to have different resources at the ready and just different things. So in that being said, it's kind of bizarre to me how with slowing down, I've started feeling like I've been falling in love with this property, which is something that's very conflicting for me to even bring up, because this property has been something that as things start going, I start feeling like I hate it and I just want to leave from here and run as fast as possible. And then I have these moments where the pendulum swings back and different things will happen, and, I'll have different ideas and different things of that nature as to how beautiful it could be and how this is more than enough for us. For those of you wondering, our property, if you don't already know, it is 2 acres. About 1.25 acre of that is pretty much wooded, like either completely wooded or in full shade to where you can't grow things, where grass won't grow, different crops won't grow, that sort of a thing. But so the other half of it, or the other 3/4 of an acre of it, is like bottomland, and it is pretty wet. There's a lot of springs, so that creates its own set of challenges and things that make things difficult. However, this past year in Ohio here, it was, well, actually all over the place, but I live here, so it was a really, really bad drought. Like tons of wells in the area were going dry in several different counties. I had been out and about and heard people complaining about their wells running dry and not knowing what to do and all this stuff. And we have a very shallow well here, and it never went dry, which, is amazing. But a lot of different areas of our yard and of our garden never even turned brown because it is such a wet property that virtually a lot of stuff did not need water. Unfortunately, it was stuff like where the goats are currently at that we're going to be moving them from. We had a volunteer squash plant in that area that Ferdy had, he's our one goat. He loves pumpkins and squash, the goats all do. And it was something that had voluntarily planted in there. And he would basically headbutt his dad anytime his dad came near the plant. So he's very intentional about trying to keep it protected. But with seeing how well things grew in their pasture zone, it kind of made me realize that that is a very valuable area to be growing crops in, especially growing things for the goats, like pumpkins and squashes and things of that nature. So, with I guess what I'm trying to say is things are going to start looking different around here because of slowing down, because of trying to essentially wanting to see what it would look like if we started plotting this out as being a forever homestead for us instead of just as a stepping stone. Because with realizing that we don't have a desire to do farmers markets anymore, kind of makes it so we don't need to have a bigger kitchen. Because that was something that we had thought about before of wanting to leave from this land and move to a different homestead and a different property was to have a bigger house. So then that way we had more space for baking the bread for the market and getting things set up for the market and doing a lot of things for the market. Because we don't want to do markets anymore, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's nixed right off the list. I don't need to worry about how am I going to store 100 loaves of bread and let them dry, or not dry, but cool, so I can bag them up and stuff. If we're not doing the market, I'm not going to be doing that. If we're not doing the market, we don't need to figure out how we're going to expand our garden like tenfold to then make it so that way we can sell not only just bread, but we can also sell produce to capitalize on the fact that the economy is falling apart and you kind of need to diversify right now if you're trying to sell stuff from your homestead. There's a lot of things of if we do this, then we don't need to do that. So that makes this homestead keep getting better and better and better. Like, we just got last week an incredible deal on a new mini split because ours has been kind of on the fritz and it's an older system. So the coldest that it can provide heat for the house is if it's above 40 degrees outside, then it can produce heat for the house. We got pretty much the deal of a lifetime on a brand new mini split from somebody we knew that was selling it. And it was less than half of what it was to buy it online brand new. And it can produce enough heat for the whole house down to like 5 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So that makes it so we aren't going to have to heat with wood anywhere near as much as we did last year, because last year wood was our only heat source. So that kind of makes it so we don't really need that much more woods because, well, I don't really need to worry about cutting up trees and cutting down a bunch of trees and doing all that business because, well, instead of using like 3-ish cords of wood a year, we're probably going to use half a cord next year, if that. It's going to be one of those things that we can have fires just because we enjoy heating with the wood and we enjoy the ambiance of it. We don't have to have them. It's a lot of things recently keep clicking into place of, wait, why are we working this hard? Why are we pushing so hard for this? Why do we need that when we have this? It's been one of those things of a lot of aha moments, which, I'm one of those people that I drift too much to ever say with certainty that we're going to do one thing or the other. But to be quite honest with you guys, since I've been trying to be honest and keep you along on our journey with pretty much everything since the get-go, at this present moment right now, all right, so fun little story time, okay? Back when Tracy and I first got married, and mind you, we've been married for over a decade now, so, which is kind of wild to me still. But anyways, back when we first got married, I started freaking out because I was like, oh God, how do I know if I want to be with her for the rest of my life? How do I know that this is who I want to spend the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years with? Like, how do I know? And I just started getting all up in my head, freaking out really bad. And then I thought about, well, I know that tomorrow I'm still going to want to love her. I know that the next day I'm still going to want to love her. I don't necessarily know too much past that because in my head it got too nerve-wracking to think about who I would be in 10 years, because back then I never would have thought I'd be who I am now. But when I thought about things, what made me settle into that it was okay to just relax about it was understanding that I was still going to love her tomorrow. I was still going to want to wake up with her the next day. I was still going to want to spend time with her for the following day, and kind of with this property recently, I've been like, well, I want to see what it looks like tomorrow. I want to see what it looks like next year. I want to see what it looks like the next growing season and how big this tree that I just planted will get and how big that's going to get. And I want to see this and I want to see that. And it's kind of made me realize that I think that I'm starting to fall for this place which honestly, it scares me. It scares me because of the fact that then it puts me in a position where I feel kind of vulnerable, because there's a lot of scary, sketchy things going on in the world. And it kind of makes you feel a little insecure knowing that you only have a certain amount of land, which, granted, we have been significantly blessed with having the 2 acres that we do. It's a huge upgrade from having a quarter of an acre. Back then I would have killed for something like this. Like, literally, I was like that crazy about wanting to get out of town and get to some land and get goats and get on the property and do things that I would have done a lot of crazy, weird things, which we did. We, got rid of everything that was important to us and that we cared about and that was comfortable for us to go live in a very uncomfortable, very toxic, painful, difficult situation just so we could get to here. And anyways, I'm rambling at this point because I'm getting cold. But the skinny of it is that I don't know what the future is going to hold for us, but as it stands right now, the lens that I've been viewing things through, the perspective that I have right now, having slowed down some and having had different opportunities present themselves to us, like with that mini split and stuff, I'm realizing that this place has a lot more to offer me than I had ever thought before. Because before it's always been this, that I kind of looked at this property as that what it had to offer me was the big financial payout at the end of when we got the house done, when we got the land all niced up, when we got all the piles cleaned up and all this stuff, that then this property, we would make a ton of money to sell it. But, the flip side is that then we would end up having to buy another major fixer-upper that needed as much work, if not more, than what this is, and then sink every dime that we made as profit off of this place onto another place. And I would be starting the process all over again. And I really don't want to do that. I thought that was what this property had to offer us, was just that big, serving as a stepping stone. But I think that instead of a stepping stone, this is more of a landing rock for us. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of things. So anyways, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I keep feeling the way that I'm feeling, but I'm very excited actually to just sort of live wide open to see what comes of this. Yeah. So anyways, thanks for listening to me ramble. I feel a lot better since getting that all out and getting that all off my chest. I've kind of have needed to do this for a while. I just didn't know the words to say. Didn't know how to express what I was feeling, because life is not something that is just a straight line of start to finish. It's this big, curly, looping, winding, ever-turning road. And I think that I've been on a lot of curves lately, to say the least. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.